All right, so today we're going deep into 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Ooh, excellent choice.
Yeah, and we're going to be looking at the opening chapters and kind of seeing what Marquez is doing here, kind of setting the stage for this like epic.
Ooh, how does he pull us in?
Yeah, exactly. How does he pull us
Yeah.
in? What's he doing? And also I think what's really interesting about this book is that it really sort of like throws you right into this world of magical realism.
Right away. Yeah.
Like there's no like, easing into it. It's just like, boom, you're in it.
And you have to accept it. You have to go with it or you're going to be lost.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things that makes it so captivating.
For sure. I mean, you're talking about, a town surrounded by water.
Yeah.
A Spanish galleon just like chilling in the jungle.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly.
A family curse.
Yeah. It's a lot to process.
It's a lot. And it's all just like right there in the first few pages.
Yeah, you really meet the main character like right away.
Yeah, so we meet Jose Arcadio Buendia, right? He's like the patriarch, he's the founder of Macondo, and like he's obsessed with progress, right?
Yeah, he wants to bring all these new inventions and ideas to this like isolated town, but it's kind of like, is it really progress?
Yeah, like, I mean, what does progress mean when you're trading like all your valuable possessions for magnets because you think they're going to help you find gold?
Right. He's like obsessed with magnets and magnifying glasses, thinking they're going to be like weapons.
Yeah, he's got this like almost childlike fascination with these things.
Yeah, but you get the sense that he's not really thinking it through. He's just equating new with better.
Totally. And then there's this whole thing where he like declares that the earth is round.
Oh, yeah, which like sends the town into chaos.
Right, you'd think finding a Spanish galleon in the jungle would be way more shocking,
Yeah.
but for these people it's like basic science that's like blowing their minds.
Well, that's it. It's like their whole worldview is shaped by this isolation, like they're cut off from the rest of the world. So a galleon, it's like, yeah, whatever. We've seen weirder stuff.
Right, it fits into their existing framework of like magic and mystery.
Exactly. But then you tell them the earth is round and they're like, what? No way.
It's amazing. And as Jose Arcadio Buendia gets older, he kind of shifts his focus.
Yeah, he's less about exploring the outside world and more about his family.
Especially his sons.
Yeah, especially Aureliano.
Yeah, and Aureliano's interesting, right? Because he kind of inherits that same like inquisitive spirit as his father.
But he's more drawn to like the mysteries of alchemy.
Yeah, there's a darkness to him too.
Oh, definitely.
But it's not just the men in this story, right? We have to talk about the women, like Ursula, Jose Arcadio Buendia's wife.
Oh, she's a force.
She really is. She's like the backbone of the family.
And her backstory is fascinating too, with that whole tragedy with her ancestor and Sir Francis Drake.
It sets this tone of inherited trauma, like the past is never really gone.
And then there's the fact that she and Jose Arcadio Buendia are cousins.
Yeah, that whole fear of having a child with a pig's tail because of that relative from the past.
It shows how guilt and family secrets can really linger.
Totally. And speaking of guilt, we have to talk about Prudencio Aguilar.
Ooh, that's a good one.
So not only is Jose Arcadio Buendia haunted by the memory of killing him, but the guilt literally manifests as a ghost.
Appearing to Ursula, no less.
It's like this crazy blend of psychological torment and magical realism, and it drives them to flee their town, and that's how they end up founding Macondo.
Right. It's like they're running from their past, trying to start over, but the past is always right there with them.
I was like, you can't escape your history.
And then we're introduced to their sons, Jose Arcadio and Aureliano.
I love that moment when Aureliano is born with his eyes wide open.
Yeah, it's like a sign right from the start that he's going to be different.
That he sees things others don't.
Like that whole thing with the boiling soup.
Yeah, it's not just an accident. It foreshadows the kind of life he's going to have, full of premonitions and strange happenings.
And then we have Melquiz, the gypsy, coming back into the picture as if death is just a minor inconvenience.
Oh yeah, he's like a symbol of how time works differently in Macondo.
And he drops that prophecy about the family.
Chilling.
The first of the line is tied to a tree, and the last is being eaten by the ants.
Oof, I get chills just thinking about it.
Sets this whole tone of doom for the family.
Yeah, like their fate is already sealed in a way.
It's so well done how Marquez weaves all these elements together.
It's incredible how much happens in just these first few chapters.
We've got these ambitious founders, a town literally born from running away from a ghost, and these children who are destined for greatness or maybe tragedy.
Right, and it's all told in this way that just completely draws you in.
It's like he's showing us that magic is part of everyday life.
Exactly, and we've only just scratched the surface.
There's so much more to come.
So much more to come.
So we've got these two sons, right? Jose Arcadio and Aureliano, and they're so different.
Yeah, they really are. Like Jose Artadio, the oldest one, he's like all action.
He takes after his father in that way.
Totally, but without that like intellectual curiosity.
It's more like pure impulsiveness with him.
Yeah, and you see that in his relationship with Pilar Tenera.
Oh, yeah, the woman who came with the gypsies.
Yeah, like that whole thing is just so passionate, but also reckless.
And then they have a child, Arcadio, who grows up not even knowing who his father is.
It adds another layer to this whole family secret thing, right?
Yeah, like all these secrets and how they affect the next generation.
Meanwhile, Aureliano is like the complete opposite.
Yeah, he's much more introspective, always lost in thought.
And, he was born with his eyes open.
It's like he came into the world already seeing too much.
And he gets drawn into these civil wars that are happening.
It's like this foreshadowing right from the beginning that his life is going to be full of conflict.
And war becomes this recurring theme in the book, doesn't it?
Yeah, almost like a reflection of the battles that are happening within the family itself.
And then, just when things are starting to feel kind of settled, we have this massive shift.
The banana company arrives.
Talk about a game changer.
Right, suddenly Macondo is thrust into the modern world.
Connected to this global economy, but progress often comes at a price, right?
Exactly, and the banana company brings all these new ideas and technologies, but are also exploiting the land and the people.
So how does this impact the town and the characters?
Well, you see this tension building right away, like this clash between the old ways and this new world.
Yeah, and it eventually leads to this huge strike.
Which is such a pivotal event in the book.
It's brutal, and it really highlights the exploitation that's happening.
And Aureliano, who's disillusioned with war, ends up becoming a leader for the strikers.
It's interesting because he's always struggled with this desire for solitude, but also this sense of responsibility.
It's like he's torn between these two sides of himself.
And as the Banana Company era unfolds, we see these same patterns repeating in the next generation.
Like with Arcadio Buendia's illegitimate grandson.
He rises to power, but he ends up ruling like a tyrant.
It's almost like history is repeating itself.
Like those same mistakes are being made over and over again.
And we can't forget about the women in this story.
They're so important.
They really are like Ursula. She's the glue that holds the family together.
Such a strong character.
But even she can't escape the shadow of the family curse.
And then you have Amedios the Beauty.
Her ascension to heaven is one of the most magical moments in the book.
It's so beautiful and so sad at the same time.
Like beauty can be so fleeting.
And then Emeranta, with all her bitterness and unrequited love.
She shows the destructive power of holding on to the past.
It's like each of the women represents both strength and vulnerability.
They're complex individuals shaped by their circumstances and their own choices.
So we've seen the arrival of the Banana Company. We've seen these cycles of violence and love play out across generations.
And as we head into the final chapters, there's this sense of inevitability.
Like things are spiraling towards an end.
Both for the family and for Macondo itself.
It makes you wonder if there's any escaping the past.
Or if they're all just doomed to repeat it.
We're back, and things in Macondo feel pretty heavy now that we're like in the final chapters of the book.
Yeah, it's almost like you can see the end coming, right?
Yeah, you know it's going to happen, but you don't want to look away.
And the Buendia family is still stuck in those same patterns.
Like even Aureliano Segundo, he has moments of happiness and it seems like he's breaking the curse, but then it all falls apart.
Yeah, it's like he can't escape the fate of his ancestors.
It's almost a parallel to the original Aureliano. Like they both burn bright, but then they fade away.
Leaving behind a lot of unfulfilled promises.
Right. And then there's his twin brother, Jose Arcadio Segundo.
He goes in a completely different direction after the Banana Company massacre.
He retreats into silence. It's almost like he's giving up on life.
It's like Macondo itself is losing its soul, becoming a ghost town.
And then we have the final generation.
The ones who have to carry the weight of everything that's come before.
For Aureliano Babylonia, he becomes obsessed with those ancient parchments.
He's trying to find answers in the chaos.
Yeah, like he's racing against time.
And then we have Emeranta Ursula arriving, bringing this like burst of energy.
Their love affair is definitely a bit scandalous considering they're related.
But it's also kind of beautiful in a way.
Like this last spark of passion before everything ends.
But even that can't escape the curse.
Their child is born with the pig's tail.
It's a stark reminder that some cycles are hard to break.
That image of the child is so haunting.
It really drives home the cyclical nature of time.
Like the past isn't something you can just outrun.
It shapes who we are and what we become.
And then, as Aureliano Babylonia finally deciphers the parchments,
He understands the truth of his family's fate.
but it's too late. The whirlwind destroys Macondo.
It's a devastating ending, but there's also a sense of peace to it.
Like they're finally free from the suffering.
It really stays with you.
So after this deep dive into 100 Years of Solitude, what do we make of it all?
It's a complex book that explores the human condition.
Our capacity for love and cruelty, our need for connection, and our tendency to isolate ourselves.
It makes you think about the choices we make.
How they affect not just us, but future generations.
Maybe we don't have a literal family curse.
But we all carry the weight of our past in some way.
And I think what's important is that 100 Years of Solitude reminds us that even in the face of these cycles, there's always hope.
Maybe not for the Buendias, but for us.
We can learn from their mistakes and try to break free from our own patterns of solitude.
It's a powerful message, and I think if you haven't read this book yet, you should definitely give it a try.
You might just learn something about yourself along the way.
So that wraps up our deep dive into 100 Years of Solitude. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.